we're just going to get right on into Twig. Folks, welcome to Twig, your weekly family-friendly news show that tackles everything from Gamescom 2024 to giant Nintendo controllers with some games in between. I am Nerd Pastor Nate. I'm really the pastor of Checkpoint Church, the church designed with nerds, geeks, and gamers in mind. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show, be sure to give us a good review. Click that like over on YouTube or come and listen live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Folks, as always, we're going to be starting with our What Have You Been Watching, Playing, and Reading. If you're live in the chat, feel free to answer along. If you're in the comment section, drop down below. Let me know what you have been watching, playing, and reading. And I am going to let our wonderful guests introduce themselves and tell us what they have been playing and watching and reading.
Hey everybody, good to be back. It's Sneaky, or Mike, however you want to say my name. Glad to be back for the new season, very excited. So what have I been doing lately? I have been crushing it on the studying front. If you guys remember, I'm in the midst of trying to earn another bachelor's degree. And I've been working on some certification exams, and they have been intensive. Thankfully, those are done for a little while, and I'm back to just, it kind of sounds funny to say, like, I'm back to doing, like, regular classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it does kind of feel like my schedule is now going to, like, open up a little bit. I have a little bit more breathing room, which I'm super excited for because I have been missing doing anything outside of schoolwork. But in the time that I have had to jump into stuff, I've been trying to catch up on House of the Dragon and finish that season 2. I have been frantically trying to catch up and rewatch Rings of Power because the second season drops at the end of the month, and I am super excited. So very, very excited. So I've been trying to rewatch that, and I'll tell you, man, that rewatch is just... It is cementing Rings of Power for me as one of my favorite shows.
Wow.
Like it is the more I watch it and the more I engage with it, I'm just like, man, Amazon did this right. And I'm digging it. For playing, I jumped back in this last weekend. I jumped back into Cyberpunk because I'm just chipping away at that game as best I can. And every time I do, I'm enjoying my time in that game. Like to the point where like I'm trying to like do as much as I can. I would like to get as many achievements trophies as I can. And man, it's just like all of a sudden just time like is sucked away. Like I just lose myself in that game, and it's great. Been dabbling in a little bit of Lego Star Wars and Borderlands 3 since those kind of came out on the PlayStation Plus as free games. So I've been just whatever. I just need a brain break. And then I've been rereading, or I caught up on all of our Checkpoint Book Club reads. So I'm happy I was able to get through those. I really enjoyed the Secret Society of Witches book that we picked for this month. I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would. I was pleasantly surprised. That was a cute story. Thought it was great. But I started rereading Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson because my brother reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm getting ready to start book 4, Rhythm of War. And I'm like, ooh, I haven't read it yet. And so we're like, we've never done this before. I'm like, what if you and I actually read one of these books together and like texted each other as we're reading it and kind of like bouncing things off each other? So we're going to try that and see how it goes. Something my brother and I have never done. So that's what's been keeping me busy. How about you?
Yes, I have been similarly in like a vein of getting back to the old grind where I finished a lot of things. I got through a lot of things. Nora was with me for a couple weeks and then has gone back to school. And so it's like, I'm finally able to breathe again and start getting through things again. So I have been catching up on all the anime and all that sort of stuff. And one in particular, I haven't really like dug this season of anime. And so I have picked on some of my backlog and started watching some of my watch list. And one of them in particular was an anime that came out last season called Jellyfish Don't Swim at Night. And at first the title seems really silly because it does sound really silly, but it is like deeply meaningful and heart-wrenching in the ways that I am absolutely here for. I just finished episode 5 and I messaged, I don't even know if anybody has seen it over in our anime channel in the Discord, but I just messaged and I was like, I need you all to know how like seen I feel by episode 5, because there was someone, without spoiling too much, that was getting creative jealousy by seeing success and seeing somebody else's success and really seeing their own success and dealing with the reality of the internet and how it can just degrade your creativity. And I was like, ooh, that's for me. Like, this was made exactly for me. It feels exactly like, I called it Bocchi the Rock meets Your Lie in April, which are two of my favorites, but it has some of the silliness, the band elements of Bocchi, the friendship elements, and then Your Lie in April with the just kind of heart-wrenching out of nowhere creative nerves. So I'm living for that one right now, and I can't even wait to watch the next episode pretty much every time I finish the one before it. I am playing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on my own time now. I was playing it on stream. I played, I think, 2 or 3 sessions of it, and I was like, this game's bad, and everybody says it's good, and I need to understand why. So I finally was able to take the time and work through it on my own. And as I have been chipping away slowly at it, I get it now. It almost makes me want to go and try Obra Dinn again, because I think that maybe these are just not games that my brain can stream, because whenever I'm not streaming it, I comprehend it better. I will say, so far, a bit overhyped. I'm curious to know if the story ends where it's going to end and if it's going to really blow my mind like everybody in the thread seems to think it does. But like Obra Dinn, overhyped for me. Like, as much as I know people love Lucas Pope, and I have nothing against Lucas Pope, overhyped. It was, people love it too much. And I'm worried that this is going that same way and it's making me experience it less. So we'll see as we get through that one. And then I'm also playing Zenless Zone Zero and just got the current pull of Changyi, I think is how they pronounce it, but it is RoboCop is what I'm calling her because she is a cop and she's also a robot. And I got her and she's very fun. I'm enjoying Zenless Zone Zero more than I thought that I would. I'm reading through what I am going to call an American classic, a new American classic, I Cheerfully Refuse. Came out this year. I'm super enjoying it so far. Really emotional, evocative experience. Similarly, talking about games that nobody else got or that I didn't get that everybody else loved. It kind of feels like Kentucky Route Zero, but I'm getting it because it's for book readers instead of for video game developers. So go figure. And then I'm also getting back into Hunter x Hunter, loving that one. I'm trying to, now that I know that it's coming back, I wanted to kind of start from the beginning and get as far as I could. So I'm like right at 100 chapters, just a little over. So I'm binging through it pretty doggone fast considering I started like last week, but it's just that good. So those are some of the things that I'm getting into. Rural Professor is reading Archive Fever and starting on some narrative therapy work and rewatching Dawson's Creek and Futurama. Classy. Perry, congratulations on snagging that 3 years of subs.
Hey,
That's incredible.
wow.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Leanne's hopping on the Rings of Power Love. Sugar Haiku is watching Fear Street Trilogy. You know, I never did watch that. I always wondered how it actually was. Alien movie marathon over the weekend, reading 6 Crimson Cranes, almost done. I'm also almost done. I think I'm at 86%. I'm playing barely anything, but have been playing my personal favorite, Pokemon Legends Arceus. Let's see, anything else in here? Welcome in, Quixote. Feel free to let us know what you've been playing, watching, and reading. But it looks like we're pretty well caught up with the things that we have been getting into. So we're going to get into some of our news stories, if that's good with you, Sneaky.
All right. Well, actually, I'm going to ask you one question first because I'm actually deeply curious about this because after watching Gamescom, I have zero. Like, if there was even a negative, it could possibly be a negative interest in the Hoyoverse at all. So, like, what about Zenless Zone Zero like grabs you that you're kind of like, ooh, this was better than I thought it would be?
Did you like, oh gosh, what's the game that just got saved? Like, if you like those kind of just like beat 'em up games, it's a beat 'em up style game, and then it just has a story that I actually unironically enjoy. If you know much about me, and by this point we've done 4 seasons of the show, so you probably know me pretty well. I'm not real big into high fantasy, and so Genshin Impact like didn't scratch the itch that I needed it to. I'm not particularly into space operas, and so Honkai Star Rail didn't scratch the itch that it needed to. But this one is in a cyberpunk setting, and so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. And I did, and I fell for it. And it's like, it's so crunchy, and you buy in to the gotcha of it all so easily. It gives you so many incentives and so many little rewards and microtransactions and microcurrencies. And if you like lean into that, it does what it needs to do, right? I don't think it's anything like to write home about. I feel pretty confident saying that it's like a solid 4-star for me. I think it's great. I don't think it's exceptional. I don't think it stands above any other mobile action RPG game, but I just like the setting and I do like the story. And I particularly like, as far as this one goes, I really like the animation. I think that, Genshin's very pretty, but they all kind of feel like carbon copy, like anime face. Whereas this one, they're like not Looney Tunes, but they have a lot of personality and they genuinely like put effort into their animation. And I am digging that about it.
Nice. Oh, it's Hi-Fi Rush, by the way, was the game that we were thinking of that we couldn't
Hi-Fi
think of.
Rush. So if you like that play style, it's very similar to that play style.
Okay.
Obviously not rhythm, but that kind of beat 'em up, kind of kinetic style fighting. That's what it is.
Yeah. Because Hubert Whithill has been like playing a lot of Zenless on Zero, and he's enjoying it as well. So it's like
it's really easy to buy into the like weekly chores that I got to get done, and I got to play with this character, and then I got to go through this thing, and then I got to get this level up, and then I need to get this character to this level, and so it is exactly what it needs to be and does exactly what it knows how to do. I don't find that I've not, aside from whenever I reached level 50 and decided to buy the season pass to get the second tier of like level 50, I have spent no money on it. Like I haven't bought any of the microcurrency. So it's got that dopamine, but it gives you just enough that you don't actually have to spend money on it. You can, I won't. But if I get to level 50 again, I'll probably buy the season pass again. I did that with Marvel Snap too, where it was like, I'm not going to pay for the $10 Marvel Snap season pass until I get to where I know I got all of it. Because I'm not interested in burning $10 or whatever it was and not getting there, like losing interest.
Yeah, I'd be really that might actually be a really interesting question of the day for the Discord at some point. But like on a battle pass, do you buy it first or do you wait until you've claimed everything and then buy it at the end?
Yep.
Because I'd be curious to see like if there's a difference or a split amongst our Discordians, if what they would say.
Right. See if there's a correlation of have you ever been to Vegas alongside that. See like what's your interest level with the gambling farm as well. So yeah. Good. Okay. Well, with that, let's get into some of our news for the night. So we're going to get into some of our trending headlines. First up.
All right, so talking about Epic. So Epic Games has launched its digital storefront, the Epic Games Store, on mobile devices worldwide for Android users and for iPhones in the European Union. Sorry, Americans, you don't get it yet. This expansion makes the store available on the mobile alongside its presence on PC and Mac, offering developers the same 88-12 revenue split. Fortnite has also returned to mobile devices through the store, its first native appearance since being removed in 2020, alongside games like Fall Guys and Rocket League Sideswipe. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney praised the move as a win for competition and consumer choice, especially in the EU. Yeah, so I didn't realize this was actually happening until I hopped into Fortnite the other day, because they're doing a Marvel, kind of like a Marvel chapter, Marvel season right now. And so I was just, because there's like a Doctor Doom and a whole Captain America and War Machine, a whole bunch of different people in it. So I was just curious to check it out to see what they were doing with their collabs, because sometimes Fortnite collabs go really well and some just fall flat. But it's interesting because you can earn like all sorts of stuff, including a character, if you play Fortnite on mobile through the Epic Game Store. And I thought that was really interesting that they like to kind of like push that was interesting to make it part of an in-game reward. And I mean, I go, why not? I mean, right? Like, why not encourage people to go back to it? You've already got such a huge mobile presence and people playing games on mobile as it is. Why not just push it more? It feels weird that we finally landed here in a way after all the drama from the last few years about this whole entire thing. And in some ways it feels like it falls flat. That's kind of like, okay, and we're back. And that's it. Like, what about this whole argument that happened over the last few years with this? So on one hand, it kind of feels that way. On the other hand, part of me is kind of like, man, this is a good move. And I would agree. I'm a big fan of, can we get more games in the hands of more people? And if people want to play Fall Guys, and my kids played Rocket League Sideswipe for quite a while. They loved that game for a good chunk of time. And so, if it's stuff that people are enjoying, get it back in the hands of people. So overall, probably a good thing. But yeah, it just kind of feels weird.
Well, and I feel like I want to say back in July, we talked about the Microsoft mobile game store, like
Yeah,
also launching. And
that went
so I think this
nowhere.
could be a new era of like, hopefully not as overbearing app stores, in particular with the bane of my existence, Apple. And so
Mhm.
we'll see, but I'm optimistic. I think this is a sign of like the EU is stepping on the right toes, and
Yeah.
kind of our consumeristic habits are stepping back just enough that we might see kind of a renaissance of hopefully mobile gaming. I would love to see mobile gaming come back in a whole new way. I wish this had happened like 4 years ago with Game Pass. Like, I wish we'd had even more excitement around Game Pass whenever it was really the greatest thing in gaming. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes next. Like, who is? I would love to see Humble. Like, let's see Humble Bundle launch an app and like let you play games. Well, maybe GOG before Humble Bundle, but somebody that lets you play them without the all the protections and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just curious to
Yeah.
see what we see coming next now that some of the like vulture nature of the App Store is starting to fade and wane. But we won't really know until we know, and I'm sure that if Apple can find a way to stop it, they will stop it. But
Right.
it sure seems like their legal team has ultimately chosen to wave the white flag here. Just doesn't seem feasible, and I'm all for it. But yeah,
Exactly.
I do agree, and I really like Perry's comment there about Fortnite being Phase 6 of the MCU. I
Right.
assume you did look around and saw some of the stuff with Marvel. I have never. I've played exactly one game of Fortnite and I won, and I'm taking it to my grave. But it was the bot one, of course. But I have seen on TikTok the like Fantastic Four Doom layer and all of the like
Oh yeah.
pretty brutal, like not gory, but not tame, like Doctor Doom trophies and stuff. So it isn't not season or Phase 6 of the MCU. I kind of am there with them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did run around and I played about 3 or 4 rounds and tried to go visit as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if it was enough to, like, yank me in.
Mm.
I do this, like, I check out new seasons of Fortnite, and I'll play a few rounds, and I'm just like, "Man, this just does not hit me in any way that makes me wanna stay here and keep playing this game."
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. So we'll see. I might jump in and do a little bit more just to kind of see what they're going to keep up with it and where they're going to go.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Well, you certainly know that I don't get it. I've never gotten into the Fortnite craze. But what I have gotten into and what I am a diehard fan of is Nintendo. And Nintendo has just announced that they are releasing finally the anticipated Nintendo Museum in Kyoto, Japan. It will officially open on October 2nd, 2024. It's going to be unveiled. All of this information was unveiled, in fact, in a special Nintendo Direct this past week hosted by Miyamoto himself. The museum showcases a rich history of Nintendo's products and includes interactive exhibits like giant Wii remotes and classic game stations. Visitors can explore 8 unique experiences, but a single visit won't cover everything due to a coin system limiting access to the exhibits. The museum also features a gallery of Nintendo products, a hands-on Hanafuda card making experience, and more. Tickets are priced at 3,300 yen, which is around $23 USD, with a lottery currently open for the grand opening. Now, I don't know if you have the stream pulled up, Sneaky, but I have put together, no sound, we're just kind of looking at it. But if you haven't had a
Mhm.
chance to watch the video, I'm going to show some of the stuff that they did show off in this teaser in particular. It's really fun what they did and what they came up with and what they put together. In particular, for me, is like you've always heard that Nintendo started making cards, and I don't know about you, but I always assumed it was a 52 deck. Like, I always assumed it was cards. It is not. It's kind of Hanafuda and Karada cards, the kind of stuff that we would have watched in Chiafuru. So it's really interesting to see them going back. This one in particular, they had a baby stroller in one of their exhibits, and it was like a Nintendo baby stroller was apparently a thing.
Hmm.
So it's really fun to see them going back through time, talking about the different exhibits, showing off all of the things and all the systems that they've had. Here we go. This is the baby stroller. So they've got that and a printer and a
Like,
copy machine,
that's
all this
wild.
kind of stuff that they would have been working on.
That is wild. I love it.
And one of my favorite parts is a little bit later in the video, they go through and show some of the interactive stuff. So this is downstairs. They have a way for you to actually play cards. And so you can play with some of the cards that they would have had and match them up and do the full experience and all that kind of stuff. They have a section that feels like a Disney ride. And I guess maybe they took some notes from Disney with the whole Nintendo World stuff. But they had like a pitching machine at one point, and they'll let you use the pitching machine, and what you hit with the little plastic balls will interact with the room and like cause the room to do things. Like the TV will break, or the bottles will spin there, or the printer will go off. Like just absurdly random things that are super fun for them to do. And then they have, of course, they were well known for Duck Hunt and the kind of light gun technology. And so they have a whole room just devoted to their light gun technology. And there was something about this in particular with Miyamoto with a light gun that just brought me some kind of weird joy. It's just really funny.
Not gonna lie, that actually is really fantastic. And I don't know if
that's
how he's holding the gun or what.
Like,
but that dude looks like he is having a good time.
Like I need some kind of meme or GIF of just that in particular. And then they're going to have these giant interactable tables where you can actually play the games with these giant controllers. And that just feels like a lot of fun. So he plays Super Mario Brothers with somebody that came and helped him out here. And that's a pretty good time. And then there's some over in the corner that they'll show them real quickly in a second, but they also have, like, I expected the controllers like this. They also have giant Wiimotes. And so there are people with motion controls. So look at them in the background with these giant...
No.
And the fact that it takes two people to hold them, it brings me so much joy. That's by far my favorite part of the entire experience, is just seeing those people in the background with the giant controllers. Hilarious. So October 2nd. Cool. October 2nd is whenever that is happening, and I wanted to show off a little bit of the stuff for those that hadn't seen the video. I highly recommend going and watching the video. Miyamoto is always a delight to see, and seeing all of the things that they're offering is huge. I will say that what I've told myself about this is I'm going to Japan someday, and this has just given me yet another thing to do and a reason to go. And it's educational. So look, I mean, if I can find somebody that's willing to partner with Checkpoint to send us to Japan, I feel like this would have to be a stop along the way. So
absolutely.
Just another reason for a Checkpoint excursion to Kyoto and to any spot in Japan, really.
Absolutely. I'm very curious about this coin system, though.
Yeah, I really do think that they probably sat down with somebody from Disney and were like, tell us all your secrets, because it looks like it looks like a fast pass card. Like it looks like exactly what they would have done and how Disney would have done it. Basically, you have a little system of coins that you're then able to tap on certain things and interact with them. They do have some stuff for kids, which I thought was super fun. I mean, it makes sense. It's Nintendo. But they have like where you can make cards, you can make Hanafuda cards and create your own for, to take home and that kind of stuff. And I think this is so neat and so necessary, and I just hope that we get more of them. I would love to see us actually get one in the States, as badly as I want to go to the one in Kyoto.
Yeah.
I'd love to see us get one here as well. Granted, I mean, there's very few Nintendo stores even in the States. So it's like, it's hard to come by this kind of thing. I feel like we sometimes, just because Nintendo is such a contender in video games, I think we think that they're bigger than they are. And like, they're huge as far as sales come, but like the company itself is not Microsoft. Like they're not trying to be Microsoft. And so their power to spread and to do different things like that is a little bit different, I feel. Or at least their choices are. Maybe they're just more frugal, something along those lines.
I mean, possible. Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought this was interesting and worth looking at, and I hope that y'all enjoyed as well. But with that, we're going to get into a bit of a bummer.
All right. Bummer news for Star Wars fans. Disney Plus has canceled The Acolyte, a Star Wars series after just one season. Despite a strong start with 11.1 million views globally in its first 5 days, the show struggled to maintain momentum, falling off the Nielsen top 10 after its third week. While critics gave it a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, the series received mixed reactions from Star Wars fans, which likely influenced the decision. Creator Leslie Headland had pitched ideas for a second season, but Lucasfilm chose not to move forward. The Acolyte was a mystery thriller set in the final days of the High Republic era. All right, so I brought this story for a very particular reason, and because it's a mini rant that like I have been kind of on lately, and we were talking about this with a guy at work, because we were talking about Rings of Power and how like Rings of Power, when it first came out, people were just like, like you're destroying Tolkien, he's rolling in his grave. Like people were like gloom and doom over it. And then it turned out like to be good. And and I feel like, you know, in regards to like to say Star Wars fans, right? In particular, but I'm just gonna kind of pull that aside and say fandoms in general for a second. I feel like are we just in a really weird spot right now with
Mm.
things? Because I feel like when you hit Star Wars, anything that's got a really massive following behind it, you have people that are just like, oh, they're only doing this for fan service. They're bringing
Mm.
back these people, they're taking these storylines. Oh, it's just fan service. This is awful. And so people gripe about that. And then everyone, you know, people like, you know, say Star Wars are like, oh, okay, well, we'll give you something new. Like, we haven't done really anything on the High Republic. Let's go down that road. New stories, new possibilities. And then you get, oh, we don't like this.
Mhm.
And I just sit here and I'm like, man, as fandoms are just like, are we divided so generationally right now that neither camp is happy? You know, younger people don't want the nostalgia trip that older people do. And, you know, newer people want things new, but then older fandoms are kind of people in the fandoms are kind of like, "Ah, I don't want this. It's not what I know and love and what I grew up with.
Mm.
And I feel like we're in this really weird because I forget what other show we were. Oh, because we were talking about this a little bit with Marvel and a little bit
Mm.
in our Discord, but I think it was actually on a different Discord that we were talking about this. Like, it just feels like right now we aren't giving characters and new stories room to breathe and
Mm.
to grow. It's like if studios don't see an immediate return on their show
Mm.
and the backlash from the fan is intense enough, like things are just getting thrown out and cut. And it's like instead of giving it that time for like the audiences to get used to the characters and these stories and develop those relationships and I'll even go as far to blame part of the blame on the fact that um how you know most seasons nowadays are 8 to 10 episodes. Like
Mhm.
how do you build a relationship with the character and their story and their arcs and where things are going to go when you have such a limited time in season where you know growing up your minimum season was 22 episodes.
Mm.
Now granted a lot of those shows were you know maybe 30 minutes to an hour in that sense, so it washes out to kind of be the same in a way, but yeah, it just like it just I don't know why with this one in particular, but it just felt like, man, I get there was a backlash even before the show picked up, but if I was like LucasArts right now, or Lucasfilms, I'd be throwing my hands in the air and being like, "What do you want, people?
Mm.
We gave you 3 films with fan service. Y'all hated them. Like you've panned them. We give you shows and you won't watch them. Like."
Mm.
And so I'm like, is this just a weird trend that we're on right now, or is this like a bigger issue? So yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of my rant. Like, and just a little bit of more of a question. Like, what are fandoms just wanting right now
Mm.
that studios aren't providing?
Yeah, there's a really good interview. I don't know if you watch Hot Ones or not, but it's a show with eating hot wings with celebrities. And there was one in particular. I love the show, and they get into some really good conversations. But there was one
It's
with
a it's a
Vince.
good it's a good show. I've watched some
Yeah.
episodes. So yeah.
There was one recently with Vince Vaughn, and take it or leave Vince Vaughn. He had some stuff, but they got into talking about comedy movies of the 90s and 2000s and just kind of the garbage comedy, the Adam Sandler comedy, the stupid movies that came out of nowhere, the dodgeball, right? A true underdog story. And so that was what they were talking about. And basically, Sean Evans asks, why are we not seeing these anymore? And Vince sort of gone off and said, it's because there's no IP behind things. And so they only want to go with trusted IP. So the reason we keep seeing sequel after sequel after sequel, the reason we keep seeing things that don't even have a story with them, like Battleship. He referenced the movie Battleship, and he was like, "Why did we need a movie based off of a game that we played when we were kids with a grid and some plastic ships? Like, what are we doing here? Instead of telling good, risky stories, why are we caring more about these IPs that we cherish?" And so I think Hollywood is in a weird state. I don't think it's just nerd and fandom scenes. I think that media and entertainment has shifted in such a way that it's impossible. And all the funding has stayed. And so that's the crux of the issue, is like the dynamic has shifted in the sense that the creatives are on YouTube and they can't get any of the money. They're either getting AdSense money or the true like up and comers get nothing. Whereas the media execs are not willing to make the same risks. They just want to play it safe and do what they think will work. And I think Pixar is one of those that is like potentially egregious depending on who you look at. But then they do a random thing like Elemental or something like that, and then they're like more risky. I think Disney Animation has done some more risky things than Pixar recently, really. But it comes down to like, are you willing to take the risk, and then are you willing to own that risk? And it feels like Disney is, but I don't know if Marvel and Star Wars are. I think that there's a weirdness of like, I don't know who's overseeing certain projects, but it seems clear to me that Kevin Feige is like willing to play ball for the most part with Marvel stuff and with Deadpool, but there's still a limit even that he has. So I don't know. I think it comes down to how much are we willing to actually lay on the table and risk? And then where is the money that follows that? And I think we just live in a different era where like everybody doesn't turn on the Andy Griffith Show at the same time every single day. We have so much to watch, and then it's not even broadcast. Like, I think about the fact that there are YouTubers that I probably just don't know that people in our community like watch every day. That's incredible to me. But that's the like modern reality of how virality works. And we can't make new things work. And so we have to trust on the things that we know will at least bring the nostalgia bait. Yeah. So I think entertainment's in a weird spot. I don't think it's just fandoms, but I don't think fandoms help. I think that the gatekeeperness of it all certainly doesn't help. And we have to do what we can. And I think that's why Checkpoint is actually really important in the nerd spaces. I often talk about how we learn a lot from the nerds, but there's some stuff we can teach the nerds. And I think that's one of the most apparent lessons that we can teach nerds, is to be graceful and grace-filled in how we receive things, and to see media that we are receiving as a kind of gift or a kind of thing that is deserving of ample grace as well, and especially the people behind the thing. And so we'll talk more about that actually in our next topic, because it really does relate pretty well to some of the backlash that I've already heard.
Yeah.
But yeah,
let's do it. Let's get into
With that, let's get into our main segment, our main story for tonight, which is going to be all about Gamescom. We're going to go through, they had their opening night live. If you aren't sure what Gamescom is, it is a huge gaming conference that takes place in Germany. However, it's also taking place in 2 other spots across the globe in the upcoming, I guess, convenings of it. They're going to go to Brazil again, and then they are going to, oh man, where was it? I don't remember. They're going to Brazil,
Asia, but I can't remember where.
It's
exactly
Asia. It's Singapore. There we go. Thank you. That's all I needed.
There we go.
So they're going to Brazil. They're going to Singapore. They're going to keep expanding on what they're doing, but it is historically in Germany, and it is this big deal. A gaming conference, very much the business side of things. But since the kind of death of E3, Jeff Keighley has turned it into his Christmas in July in August, where instead of all the announcements that he would normally do at the Game Awards, he does them all at opening night live. And I love it. We've been watching it for years at Checkpoint. It's one of my favorite little, pickups of the year. I think it starts off the school year on a really high note. It sort of begins the end of the year as we head towards the Game Awards. So I sort of have become nostalgic for this at this point, and I super enjoy it. But I thought for this time, we could just go through some of the things that we saw that we were excited about, some of the things that got our attention, and also just talk about some of the highlights of the night. So I don't know if we want to work with some of the quicker ones first. I know we have some overlap here and there.
We have a lot of overlap, so you can just start, and then I'll just kind of jump in.
Yeah, so I'll start with something that I was for sure not expecting and was thrilled thrilled with, and I'll go with my perhaps favorite trailer of the night. There were a couple trailers that I super enjoyed, but the one that came out of nowhere for me, at least, was Starfield getting a vehicle and doing a totally unexpected trailer with just a very unexpected Starfield editing. Like, I feel like they've had a motif that they've gone with, and they came out of nowhere with like a rap song in the background, with really funny editing, with like a genuinely like jovial mentality, which it's always been very bleak and dark. But this time they were super silly about it. And I think that it's hilarious that they thought that them getting a vehicle was warranting of a whole trailer, because if you've played Starfield, you know
Right.
just how good this is about to be. Having a vehicle in Starfield is game changing. It is absolutely next level. It is the difference between playing Omori without realizing that you could hold shift to run the entire game. That is
a
the
great-
experience of
Yes, that's
Starfield
great
getting a
comparison, right?
vehicle. So very huge deal. And then also another tease. We already sort of knew about this. I don't know if we know the date, but Starfield expansion Shattered Space will be dropping on September 30th. And I think the vehicle dropped like tonight. I think it was an update.
Yeah,
that
it did. Yeah.
is now.
I'm gonna tell you, I played Starfield. I enjoyed it for the first chunk that I played it. I man, do I not think there's anything that can pull me back into that game.
Yeah, it would have to be a really tempting expansion.
Yes, like it would have to like the expansion would just have to be game changing in some way. Like,
Did you finish? Did you get to the end of the story, the narrative?
oh yeah, yeah.
So, without spoiling anything, the game makes it very, very tempting to do a new game plus. And I didn't do a new game plus. Like, it was exactly good enough that with the temptation and the like expectation to do a new game plus, I didn't do one. So that's kind of where I land with it. Like, I super enjoyed the story, and I thought it was really good for a nerdy sermon. It made for a heck of a nerdy sermon. It was like perfect for that. But that would have to be what the expansion would do, is like really sell me on why I should play more, because you've already done that. You've already done the new game plus job, and it didn't do enough.
Right, and Humor Woodhill in the chat makes a really great point. He says it's another basic feature of other games being added into Starfield, and that is 100% it. Like, why was this not included in the very opening part of the game? Like, the fact that you have to make a goofy trailer to sell the fact you're including vehicles tells you all you should need to know.
Yep. Absolutely hilarious. Ridiculous. Yeah, that was probably my favorite trailer of the night, just because of the absurdity of it. There were a lot of other good ones. So let's see, what was one of your trailers that might have grabbed you?
Okay, so it's weird. I'm gonna totally talk two sides of this trailer, but Troy Baker talking about how voicing Indiana was important to him, and like the connection that made, and I liked that part of it because I 100% get that. Like, I'm not super excited about an Indiana Jones game, only because like the Indiana Jones IP has been treated very roughly these last few years. And so I'm not optimistic in what the game could bring. Am I still going to play it? Yes, because Indiana Jones growing up was my ultimate hero. Like, he was the guy. If I could pick somebody growing up to be, it was him. And that's why like the Uncharted games with with Nathan Drake as the main character like are probably an IP that just like is so my all-time favorite. And because it speaks to that Indiana Jones thing that I grew up with. So I resonated with Troy Baker talking about that in a way that was like, yes, like here I am. I finally get to play as Indiana Jones in this character. However, not very excited that Troy Baker is Indiana Jones, though.
Yeah, it's a weird choice. It's a strange. I mean, he's kind of just like the quintessential voice actor in video games right now. So I think there's an element of that. But
he's like the Pedro Pascal of
that's a great
video
call.
game right now.
He's
and yeah, like when I heard he was doing it, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, awesome, but okay.
What I think is interesting about this game, I think what's in my like good thumbs up column is that it's a first person experience. I think that was a great call because of the fact that it would have been so easy to make this a third person game. Like it would have
Yeah.
logically made so much sense, but they're letting you be Indy. And so I think that is really nice to be able to see through the eyes of Indiana Jones instead of be a camera floating above him. I think that's a good thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that will set this one apart from how the IP has been abused in the past.
And I'll be curious too, because I was watching Kind of Funny Games and kind of their reaction to things before we started. And they were talking about this, and one of the guys was talking about how he got to see a lot of this game and experience a lot of it. And obviously, he's been NDA'd to the hilt, so he can't talk about much. But he said the one thing that'll be very interesting to see how fans react to it is the pace of the game. He said it's slower because you have Indiana. He says you spend more time either using your pistol, your fists and your whip than you do anything else in the game. And plus you have to have time to let those puzzles be figured out throughout the game. And so he said it'd be and that's what I'm really curious about, because there are a lot of games that are very fast paced in that genre. And now to have a game that kind of like almost makes you move at 3/4 speed, I'll be real curious to see what in this day and age of fast-paced gaming, how that will go. So I don't know if because I mean you could almost, again, to make the comparison, you could almost say the same thing as Uncharted. Right, like it has that ebb and flow of action versus story and puzzle, and I feel like in most cases, not all, but in most cases, that pace is actually pretty good. So I'll be curious to see if they take a page from that, where your action versus story versus puzzling is it very much kind of an ebb and flow kind of a thing.
Yeah. And they're also held together by set pieces. And so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, like, whenever I think of indie, I think of the kind of like otherworldly kind of stuff that happens, the faces melting and that kind of thing. When I think of
Yeah.
Uncharted, I think of explosions. And so, like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Okay.
curious, like, whenever I think of indie, I don't think of those big set pieces. I think
Mm.
of dark things that happen, strange things. And I wonder how that's going to play over to holding interest. But we did
Yeah.
get a date. December 9th is whenever that's coming out, and it is going to be on PS5, which I think was kind of assumed but wondered about. We weren't quite sure.
Yeah, and
when
so that was
Microsoft was
exciting.
gonna
I mean,
make
it's
those
interesting
moves.
that it gets two different dates.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that was they finally decided to PS5 and now they're catching up. But I will say my wallet was thankful for that, because it does mean that I can hold out
That's it.
until 2025 to get the game on my PlayStation, which will lighten the load on the wallet at the end of this year.
Yes. Another game that we've been anticipating the date for. We don't really have to dwell on this one too much, but especially if Humor with Ill is still out there. Marvel Rivals did officially get a date, and it is shockingly close to the indie date. It's December 6th. So it'll officially be releasing with all characters unlocked from day one, free to play. Wow. Huge
Smart move.
moves.
Smart move on their part. This game has generated a lot of hype, a lot of excitement. I did not get to play it, but I did get to watch Humor Whithill play it quite a bit on his streams, and it looks so much fun. And I'm very, very excited that it is going to be coming soon. I think, again, a great time to do it, early December, right before you give people time, and then everybody goes on winter break or Christmas break for schools and things. Like, that was a solid choice on their part, and then especially to make it free to play, all the characters are there. Yeah, as Humor said in the chat, all characters free is huge, and it absolutely is. Like, I think they're making an incredibly smart decision here, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that people will pick up this game and it will do well.
Something that does bum me out, this is two games that are like supposedly going to be the biggest games of the year. These are games that are anticipated and excited to have released. And I'm thinking about the Game Awards, and
Mhm.
that is a week before. So there's no way
Yeah,
for them to pivot. I
right.
personally was expecting a indie orchestral performance at the Game Awards.
Mm.
Like, that was I was going to theorize that that's probably what was going to happen. And now I'm like, I don't know. Like 3
Yeah.
days before is not a lot of leeway. And so maybe there's a chance that they'll just do like a John Williams like ode and throw in some clips that they got from the game in 3 days. Like, but that doesn't sound right. It feels like they've got to be planning it now.
Yeah.
And so I am curious, like these are two big games for this year that are just going to not get any attention at the Game Awards. And typically a December game, by the way, doesn't win anything. So, you know, awards only mean what they mean, but these are probably going to be snubbed by the rest of the games that come out in the next year.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's a bummer.
It is a huge bummer.
For a game that is arguably both of these games could be contenders for their categories, if not GOTY potentially for indie, depending on where it goes. So pretty interesting stuff there. One thing that I did want to call out, we talked about, you know, a voice actor in Troy Baker. We do get the return of Roger Craig Smith. I actually thought it was Troy Baker whenever I heard him in the VR, but in the new Batman Arkhamverse VR game, we got to look at some new gameplay. It looks very familiar, along with an October release window and the voice cast being revealed. So I like Roger Craig Smith as Batman. I think he does a good job and has a good voice. And to the point that I thought it might have been Kevin Conroy. And I was like, are we getting another last performance from Kevin Conroy? Because I feel like that keeps happening. But I think he just did a really good job with the Batman voice. And I'm not probably going to play it. I don't really like VR games very much. They're not really my steez. I don't necessarily like, they don't hold my attention very long. But I do love Batman and I really love the Arkham games. But we'll see. We'll see. If it comes out and people are like, this is the best story since Arkham City, I'll be like, okay, like I'm going to play it then, but I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like my son and I last Christmas, we split our Christmas money and bought a VR headset. I have maybe played an hour on it.
Yeah.
While he has lived on it, like it hits him like for some reason just spot on. But yeah, I don't know. I just the idea of playing a full game on that thing makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be real curious. But I will say to all of that, if there is a game that could get me to actually do it, it would be a Batman game. So
sure. If it gets confirmed as being good, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
That is what it is. All right, a quick lineup of some of the other games that we can go through. Some of the things that grabbed my attention was Linked Banner of the Spark was a fun little roguelike. It looked kind of like Hades, but with a bit of a brighter color patch and allowed for a little bit more of a roguelike experience of hacking and slashing and building your town. Maybe a bit more intentionally than the town that you might build as you go back to base in Hades. We both got a good look at Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, which of course is the game that was pushed whenever Life is Strange Double Exposure got announced for this year. And I'm equally excited. I'm just as excited for it then as I was before. I'm amped for that game, and I think it's going to be a ton of fun. It does kind of give me vibes. I mentioned it during the stream whenever we were watching. It almost reminds me of the graphic novel Paper Girls with what they're going for, and I kind of hope it doesn't because of the way that graphic novel goes. But it's giving those vibes of like inspiration of like a brat pack of girls trying to figure out life and whatever's happening in their lives. We got another look at Dune Awakening, this time a much deeper dive into how that MMO is going to work. And I'll be honest, I'm okay with Dune. Wow, that was a great trailer. That game looks super fun. That was.
Yeah.
Like I was almost like, man, if only I had all the time in the world, I would play that MMO. Then I would get into it because it looks super fun. The base building and the things that you can do, the play style, the interactive, the UI, everything they showed us. I was like, this is a great looking game.
Yeah, like Dune Awakening has been interesting since, you know, we've been getting chunks of it almost every time there's a game show, right? Like there's some trailer that gives you a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And I thought with this one, holy cow, these guys have done game trailers right. They have like tease stuff and they give you a little bit more. This one, they actually like dive into it. And I'm like, each one, they show you much more into the game. And yeah, by the end of that one, I was like, I'm sold. Like, just done. Give it to me. I'll take it. Just hand it over. Yeah, I agree with you, Mar. Like, I want to build the Ornithopter. Like, just give me one of those.
Super fun the way they were building and bit by bit instead of just buying it outright and setting it down. looks super cool. So I'm excited
So
for that one. A quick call out just for my mobile gamers out there. If you've not played the first 2 Monument Valleys, there was announced Monument Valley 3, and all 3 of them will be releasing on Netflix games. And so if you have a Netflix account, you got those games on there. They are fantastic little puzzlers, and I highly recommend them. If you like the little isometric kind of spinny cube game, it's a good one. So I'll recommend that. And then something that did surprise me, I really have no connection with Peter Molyneux. Whenever they brought him on stage, I was like, I don't really know who this is, but connected to Fable and Black and White, whatever that is, and some other games. And he showed off his new experiment, Masters of Albion, and it looked pretty fun. It was
really, I had the opposite reaction. I was like,
okay.
Nope, not
it
for
was
me.
one of many city builders, and
Yeah.
I am okay with city builders, but then they let you go into third person of your people in your city and go fight and stuff. And I was like, okay, I can get into a God game where I also get to be a player. I won't probably play it, but I do think that the concept itself was like, in a world where we saw like 7 different iterations of Civ 7, I was really glad to see one that at least did something different. So I was here for it. And then we did get some stuff that I will turn over to you for with Blizzard. So I really thought that they brought out the like Blizzard director. They brought out people like behind creative design. And I was like, this is going to be a big announcement. Like, what are they teasing? It's towards the end of the show. They brought out all these people, and it was kind of just expansions. It was kind of just stuff that we already sort of knew about with WoW and with Diablo, and then some looks at them. I was pretty let down. I was like, why did they make such a big deal out of this to just come out and sort of, it did feel very businesslike.
And I will 100% agree with that. Like, I thought too, as soon as they announced the director was coming out, I was like, oh, what do we got? Yeah. And I'm like, okay. And you're talking about stuff that everybody already knows about. So I don't know if it was just a rehyping of, getting people excited for that, or what the shot was there. But I'll say this, and we've talked about this before, Blizzard, man, is such a problematic company. And it's tough to, like, as a gamer, you're like, I don't want to give you my money because you're a problematic company, but then you put out things like this and it's so good. And that's what kind of left me at. Like, I mean, I'm super excited for both these expansions, because I was actually even thinking at one point, it's like, man, I would love to jump back into WoW, because it feels like with WoW, like it I don't want to say having a resurgence, but it's creeping up back into the levels of gaming that it used to, and with them, and their ability to keep that game going is kind of mind-blowing, right? Like, you think of all the MMORPGs out there, and for Blizzard to keep WoW as such a staple for all of these years is man, no joke in any way. Like, it's truly impressive. So yeah, I think the announcement felt like a little bit of a kind of like, okay, you could have done this without everything that you did right there. But I think for people who are fans of those games, I think these expansions are super exciting for them. And I don't know if it'll be enough to pull me back in Diablo. I mean, I had a good time in Diablo, and occasionally I feel the itch to get back in there and just kind of see what they've done, because I played it when it first came out, and I'd really like to see what they've revamped and what they've retooled. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, but there hasn't been anything to pull me back. And I don't see this being something to pull me back either. The War Within expansion actually might be enough to make me dabble my toes back in WoW, and just to go in there and see what's going on and what they've done. And so, overall, lackluster announcements, but for good stuff.
Sure. And I don't want to degrade that it was, a thing that got some people surely very excited. I was just thinking new IP as soon as they brought the director. I was like, this is a big deal.
You're bringing out the big guns. Like, why would you not expect this to be something huge? And then it wasn't.
But alas, the final thing that I'll mention was something that took me completely by surprise, and I was blown away by it about the middle mark. They brought out Tim Miller, just a well-known producer, and talked about a partnership with Prime Video that they're working on. Most notably, Tim Miller, for me, is from Love, Death, and Robots. So if you've never watched the anthology series Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, if you are okay with mature content, do it right away, because it is some of the best animated content that has ever been made, in my humble opinion. And whenever whenever I saw it, I was like, whenever I saw Love, Death, and Robots, that is, I remember thinking, if only we could do this with video games. And don't you know it, Tim Miller comes out and says, we're doing it with video games. December 10th, announcing a new show called Secret Level, an anthology series focused on indie new projects and classic games. It looks gorgeous. Just a list of some of the games that they featured during the burn reel that they were showing everybody. We had God of War, we had Sifu, we had Warhammer 40K, Unreal Tournament, New World Eternum, Dungeons and Dragons, The Outer Worlds 2, Honor of Kings, Armored Core, Exodus, Spelunky, Crossfire Concord, and then the two surprises for me, one and only Pac-Man, and then several shots of somebody I couldn't believe, because I was like, are they really doing this? Here's Mega Man. There was just Mega Man. They're making a like gritty, dark Mega Man. I love it.
And if we do not get a Zando reaction, we need Zando to film a reaction for Twig.
Absolutely.
Because I need him to do this and to get his thoughts on it, because but yeah, you're right. This came out of nowhere, and my goodness, I am struggling to not overhype this in my head.
Oh yeah.
Like I watched Love, Death, and Robots, I think the first season, and after that I was kind of like, ooh. So when you say mature content, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
It was a little rough.
Rated hard M. A hard M.
Like hard M. Like if you could capitalize it, bold it, italicize, underline, like all
Your
that.
kids should not be in the house.
Yeah. But but the stuff I did watch was really good, and I am not an anime fan at all. Like I struggle to watch it, but I actually was able to watch it. And I mean, this, oh my goodness, I got really excited, and I had to stomp on my excitement almost immediately. Be like, do not get hyped for this, because I don't want to be crushed. Like I am so optimistic for what I saw, because did it look good? It looked so good.
The good part,
but I don't
for me,
want it to be bad.
The good part for me about anthologies are that you can have some stinker episodes. Like, I think that was the biggest problem with Black Mirror Bandersnatch, the like interactive one, is that it was the only thing that came out. And so if you didn't love it, you didn't love anything that Black Mirror did that year. Whereas with like Love, Death, and Robots, I will be, the first to say that not every one of them is perfect, but the ones that hit, holy cow, they're some of the best animation that exists. And so it's like, it has the potential for like, is the Pac-Man episode going to be good? It's probably going to be a real stinker. Like, it's probably not going to be good. It's probably going to be silly, and maybe it'll be good. But Armored Core, I don't care about Armored Core at all. I guarantee you that episode's going to be incredible. Like a mech battle, it's going to blow our minds. So,
and the one that got me, like, that had the potential for me to be like, this could potentially be one of my favorite episodes, is Sifu. I'm like, you could do that one so well.
Yep.
And if the little clip that I saw, like, if they're gonna go where they're gonna go, like, I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
It's gonna be really good, I think. I will be very surprised if none of the episodes are good. I think that the way that he came out swinging, the excitement that he had for it, and the love and passion poured into the previous projects that he has worked on. I think it's going to be great. And I think that we're going to probably be surprised by the ones that we don't know as well. And like, I think that like Concord's obviously incredibly new. I think Spelunky's a real out of left field thing for them to lean into. Outer Worlds 2 getting a nod. Like, I think that we're all going to have expectations of Sifu. We're probably going to have expectations of Warhammer. We're going to have expectations of Dungeons and Pac-Man and Mega Man, just because that's silly. But like, there's a lot on here that we are not going to come with preconceived notions, and we're just going to be ready for a story. And I think that's what they do really, really well. So I'm optimistic. And
you know what I want to?
December
That'll
10th
be-
is not that long. That is
oh, I
not
know.
that far away. So we will know soon how these
Yeah.
do. And I'm hoping for 6 seasons in a movie. Like, let's see Secret
Right.
Level become a mainstay in the video game world, because
Right.
I'll take it forever.
Here's the only thing that's going to crash and burn for me. If Christopher Judge does not voice
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kratos and God of War, like,
Yep.
or Kratos, like that, if that doesn't happen, like, I might just be done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and something
But
that they do really well, I mean, God of War wouldn't necessarily make sense, but a lot of their animations have no voices. It's just story told through emotion and
well,
action.
yeah.
And so I think Sifu, I could see Sifu having no voices, the
Yeah.
entire thing being totally
That'd be so
covert.
cool.
I'm so excited. I'm like, literally, that in and of itself was Gamescom for me. Like, the rest of opening night live, I was like, these are good. But then there was one thing that was like exceptional, stood above the rest, and it was Secret Level announcement. I'm hyped. With that, let's close this time with some quick questions. And the first one is, and I'll ask the chat as well, what would you score Gamescom, especially if you watched opening night live? What would you score it? For me, Sneaky, I gave it a solid 6, which is out of my stars, that's the good one. 6 is you did a good job.
Yeah, I gave it a 7, like a 7 out of 10. I'd almost give it a 7.5 out of 10. And here's exactly why. Gamescom is not the Game Awards.
Right.
It's not, Summer Game Fest, right? This one is a little more the business side. It is, but the way I always see Gamescom is more of a, here's dates, here's things to get hyped for by the end of this year and early next year. Like, it's more like confirmation for the things you want. And I felt like that's exactly what I got, with a few surprises tossed in.
Yeah.
And so that's why I would give it a 7 or 7.5. Like, I thought it was good overall for that reason. Like, it did what it needed to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I agree to an extent. I think that they did exactly what they needed to do and pulled it off pretty well. I think that of the things, this kind of relates to another question I was going to ask, and that is, what's something that you wanted to see? And it looks like that was sort of how you answered, is that it did what it needed to. I would have liked to have seen personally something out of Life is Strange, considering that it's coming out so soon. And we didn't really get a good look at it. We have seen a couple trailers, but it was like, it would have been nice to have at least had that one promoted in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And then a secret one, a selfish one just for me. We did get a look at a Kodaka game, a Danganronpa game, in the first chunk before, like the pre-show. But I would have loved to have seen another look at the 100 line. And I guarantee you we're going to see another look at it at the Game Awards, probably. But who could say? Yeah. So yeah, do you agree that was probably what how you would have answered it anyway? Is like,
oh yeah, yeah. Like, there's I don't. This is a game. This is an award show or an announcement that, like, I don't expect much out of. And I think that's why, like, when you get something like Secret Level, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. You get so excited about it because you're not expecting something like that to come out. So yeah, for me, I think my expectation was met on exactly what I thought we would get.
There you go. Well, as we close this time, let's look forward to the Game Awards. What is one wild wish for the Game Awards? What's something that you will throw into the wind as a flip the coin into the well and make a wish?
Oh man, okay, a couple. I picked a couple because just there are two that are just kind of near and dear to my heart, and I would love any ounce of information about them right now. But I would love to see more about Light No Fire from Hello Games. No Man's Sky.
It's gonna be the biggest game of all time. It's gonna have its own console shipped to your house. He's gonna personally come and put the console together for each and every person that buys it.
Sean Murray's gonna show up at my house. He's gonna fly from England. He's gonna show up and be like, here.
Whatever he can do to build expectations is his.
Yeah,
his
like I would love more about that game. I would also deeply love to hear a big announcement for the next Plague Tale game. Because if you played Requiem and you got to the end, no spoilers, but they did open the door for a third one. I would love to finally get some, like, is it even happening? My kind of like info. Like, give me that hope that the next one's going to come. Because again, if somebody wants to show up at my doorstep and would like to hand me an envelope that will say, in here lies the answer, open at your own peril, kind of a thing, I'm all over it. So Yeah.
I went for something that could truly, absolutely 100% never happen. And that would be for those of you that know me, you know, I love Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. They're some of my favorite games of all time. Crush 40 is the band that played for them. And so I am hoping for a Sonic Adventure 3 announcement dropping day one on Game Pass with Crush 40 as the featured band of the night, performing a new song along with Escape from the City right at the beginning. That's what I'm needing. That's what I'm wanting from the Game Awards. They did do the Sonic the Hedgehog open world game with like running in the woods that they would never tell us about, Frontiers. So like maybe we can get a Sonic Adventure game, but
it's possible.
There's no way Crush 40 is coming on stage, but I can dream. I can dream. So this has been our Gamescom recap. This has been a chunky one, and I love these big segments, but it did allow us to, instead of just go through a list and name everything that was announced, we got to actually talk about things that we care about. So I hope that all of you enjoyed it as well. But we are going to get
Thank you for hanging with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for not leaving, those of you that are still here. With that, we're going to go into everybody's favorite segment of the show, Cryptic Critiques. That's right. It is time for everybody's favorite game show, Cryptic Critiques. This is the game show of bad reviews for beloved games. I've scoured the internet to find 3 of the funniest bad reviews I could for popular games, and I will deliver them one at a time to our special guest, Sneaky Pig of the Week. Play along with us, see if you can figure it out before clue number 3. If you're watching live, please don't send your guesses in until the guest gets to give their final choice at the end of the 3rd prompt. Sneaky, are you
would
ready?
Like to DM your answer, please, you can DM me your answer.
Yeah. Are you prepared? Are you emotionally here? I will say, I think this is a really tough one.
Well, you know, and here's the thing. I'm already bad at these kind of games anyway. So, like, I'm just going to live up to the fact that I'm not going to get it. And we're just going to enjoy the ride.
Is going to be real rough. So this might be one that we do need some help for. Or it'll be one that you maybe had these same thoughts of, or you just like, know off the top of your head. We'll see. It really depends on how good your knowledge is of game development companies. Because there's the third clue. Yep. If you know the dev, then you'll get it right away. But if you don't know the dev, you probably won't get it.
All right. All right.
One clue may be worthless. All right. Into our bad reviews for beloved games. The first one, a pretty good game that plays like Ubisoft is still not a good game. A pretty game that plays like Ubisoft is still not a good game. Anything based off that alone?
I feel like that's a pretty broad one. Like, I feel like
there are a lot of games that get that label attached to it. Ubisoft is a notorious insult. So yeah. Could very well be. All right. We're keeping it broad. Humor Whittill already has a guess. I'd love to see it. Keep it. Write it out. Don't send it in and see if you get it right. Number 2, this is a pretty good clue if you remember what game came out which year. This is the game that was supposed to win GOTY over Tilu 2 skeleton emoji.
Oh.
I'm dead.
Okay, give me that one more time.
This is the game that was supposed to win GOTY over Tilu 2 skeleton emoji, meaning I'm dead. You may very well have enjoyed this game more than Tilu 2 for all that I know.
It's possible. That is very possible. So funny story about that. I swear I keep saying I'm going to settle on an answer for Tilu 2, and I can't. Like, there are some days I think of that game and I'm like, it's so good. And other days I'm like, all right. Give me the next one.
Last prompt. We'll see. Like I said, if you know game devs, then you're going to know this one. We could have gotten Sly Cooper 5 instead of this. We could have gotten Sly Cooper 5. And I'll give you the game company if you don't know who makes Sly.
It's not Code. Who is it? Because it's not Konami.
It is Sucker Punch.
Okay. Was it Sucker Punch? Really? Okay.
Which is a huge hint.
Oh, I know. And it's like, Humor, I'm stalling so you can send me your guess. You haven't done it yet.
Hoping for those hints, hoping for those DMs. Counting on it. To go back over, we'll go back over the hints here.
I think I have
a pretty game. So it's a gorgeous game that plays like Ubisoft, still not a good game. This is the game that was supposed to win GOTY over Tilu 2. I'm dead. we could have gotten Sly Cooper 5 instead of this.
Okay, Sucker Punch did help, and I think I've got it. Is it Ghost of Tsushima?
It is indeed Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah. See, that third clue, once you know the game dev, it's such a good clue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was
Sly.
like, okay. Well, because it's funny because by like the second clue, but the second clue was Ghost was in there as a possibility.
Yeah.
And then that's why I had to ask. Like, I was like, wait, Sucker Punch. Pretty sure Sucker Punch did Ghost. So that's cool. That's awesome.
Yep. Chats in the clap.
Ooh, Immortal Phoenix Rising would have been a good guess too.
Yes, I would have probably, knowing my thoughts on Immortal Phoenix Rising, I would have probably thrown in a review about how many ads and previews we got for it, because it was previewed to death.
Yes.
Even if I had to write that review, I would have made some kind of joke about it. But you nailed it. I was surprised, to be honest, with this game. This game got a lot of hate. I thought it was like universally loved. It was not.
I love this game. And weirdly enough, the DLC was actually in my opinion, the DLC was actually even better than the game. But I absolutely love this game. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Did I enjoy it more than TLU 2?
That's the question you'll be thinking.
That is the question.
Yeah.
And I can't give my answer because humor's here.
Right. Well, look, I mean, Cam could have also loved this game, but that is the big question. I was just surprised because I thought this game was just seriously beloved, and undoubtedly was not as much as I thought it was, but I remember it feeling pretty good. It wasn't my kind of game, so I wasn't going to pick it up, but what I saw of it looked very pretty. Like the first year say, if it played like Ubisoft, might not be worth it. With that, we're going to get into my personal favorite segment of the show.
At this point in nerd history.
It is time for At This Point in Nerd History, talking about things that happened on this exact day of August 20th throughout time and space. Normally we talk about video games, movies, TV shows, and then some random facts. This time we have some particularly interesting random ones thrown in there. I'm going to start us off with games before throwing over to Sneaky for our random facts. 2007 Brain Age 2 More Training in Minutes a Day was released for the Nintendo DS. I very much enjoyed Brain Age. Those were games.
I was going to ask you because I feel like you would have definitely played the Brain Age
yeah.
games.
That actually might have been what kindled my love for Sudoku. I think that would have been the first place I probably would have experienced it. And it also really polished my love of reading because there were passages and chunks that you would read on Brain Age, and I loved that as well. So pretty interesting. In 2001, Super Mario Advance was released for the GBA over in Japan. In 2000, the classic computer game Deus Ex was released. And in 1984, the specifically Donkey Kong 3 Micro versus Game & Watch was released. So one of those classic Game & Watch systems that had Donkey Kong on it. Pretty good ones.
Nice. Yeah, some good stuff. All right, some more random stuff. In 1882, Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture debuted in Moscow. In 1866, it was formally declared by U.S. President Andrew Johnson that the American Civil War was over, even though the fighting had stopped, many months before that. And in 1866, the National Labor Union in the United States advocated for a 8-hour workday. So if anybody ever asks you, why do we have to work 8 hours a day? Monday through Friday? There you go. Yep. You can either thank or blame the National Labor Union, depending on your stance.
Yep. And think back to August 20th of 1866. I thought it was fun that we had all three of them come from the 19th century there. Pretty interesting that we had to go back that far to find things that were interesting. But they were interesting enough for me to feel like they should be included just for fun history facts. I don't know.
I should have pointed out that U.S. President Andrew Johnson is actually time traveling. What's his name? Not Tommy Lee Jones. What's his name? Is that who it is? Is that who I'm thinking of?
I can't remember.
Oh my goodness. What is up with us tonight, man? We are having a night of... Yes, Tommy Lee Jones. Yes. It is time traveling Tommy Lee Jones.
You got it. So there we go. That's At This Point in Nerd History. Let us know if anything came out on this day throughout time and space that we forgot or that you would have picked instead. But with that, we are going to get into our penultimate segment of the show. It is time for, oh, I thought I changed it. That's right. It's time for upcoming releases. We're going to talk about 3 things that we're excited about coming out in the next week or so, or maybe even that came out today, because 2 of mine actually dropped today. I'll start with my first one. It is a new movie that is coming out that maybe some folks will be interested in as well. Speaking of original comedy IP, in this dark comedic crime thriller, a rookie cop Will, played by Himesh Patel, and his rogue partner Terry, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who it's always nice to see in a movie, upend their small island town when they accidentally discover $1 million at a crime scene of their own making. After the duo unwisely decides to steal the money, the community's quirky residents are lured into the mad dash for cash, ranging from an expectant mom, Lily James, to a masseuse, Simon Rex, to a shrimp company owner in Tim Blake Nelson, who is also always wonderful to see in a movie. Everyone learns just how far they are willing to go for the almighty dollar. I am getting vibes of Rat Race here, and I don't know if that is what they're trying to go for. I don't know if they could ever recreate the legendary iconic cult classic of Rat Race, but I'm willing to see this, and I think it looks fun. And like I said, I got 2 actors in there that I feel like I don't see very often, and when I do, I always enjoy what they're in. So that's my first one.
Yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna check that one out for sure. Some of my or all my picks are coming out, and really not this week, but kind of next week. And so, but I'm very excited about them, so I'm sharing them. But yes, mentioned already, Rings of Power season 2 comes out August 29th. Just continuing that story of basically, essentially how Sauron grows in power to what happens in Middle Earth, and basically pushing to where you get the start of the books. Again, super excited. I love what the show did first season with some of the characters. I'm looking forward to really kind of seeing where they go here, because a lot of this stuff, they're pulling some of it out of the Silmarillion, but for the most part, they're kind of free reigning a lot of this stuff. And I know they've talked about 5 or 6 seasons. Is kind of what they're aiming for. So very curious to see where they're going to go and eventually tie everything in. But yeah, 8 episodes. First 3 episodes will drop on August 29th, and then 1 episode per week after that.
All I know is that Tom Bombadil is supposed to have a larger role, and I'm thrilled. I'm totally here for Tom Bombadil to actually be in some Lord of the Rings adjacent material. So
yes, and I think I'm the same as everybody else. I'm really curious to see how they're going to play it.
Yeah,
I'm afraid. Again, it's that I'm excited to see it, but afraid to see it at the same time.
Yeah. Time will tell with that one, and it's really just right around the corner. My second one is one that dropped today, as I mentioned, Black Myth Wukong. This is the highly anticipated and long time coming action RPG rooted in Chinese mythology, specifically the classic story Journey to the West, one of the 4 great classic novels of Chinese literature. Set out as the destined one to venture into the challenges and marvels ahead to uncover the obscured truth behind the veil of a glorious legend from the past. This one's already getting hyped up pretty well. I am a big fan of Journey to the West. I really enjoyed reading through it in a part of our 1001 Books series. And I just think that it's a lot of fun to see the kind of transformative powers that you get to go through with the Monkey King and all that kind of stuff, and taking powers. And it looks like they did a lot of that. That's kind of the main motif with this game, is that you're kind of taking powers and using them for yourself, which is just a blast to see them leaning into that. I have had some mixed opinions on this one. We didn't include the news story tonight, but the company behind the game is not particularly swell. But I also have played Overwatch, as we were talking about Blizzard earlier. So it is kind of what it is with some of these game companies and their weirdness and their stuff, the stuff that they bring along with them. But I do love Journey to the West, and so I fully plan on watching some playthroughs of this one. We'll see if I end up getting it for myself. I will say I'm thrilled to hear it is less Souls-like. And so that is something that is like, yes, good. I do not want to play a Souls-like. I've done that enough, and this was not what I wanted it to be.
I think hopefully that'll bring more people to the table. Yeah, I will probably watch other people play this. I don't know if it's one I would actually play myself, but I mean, if it looks interesting enough, maybe I'll grab it later on. In that infinite pool of time that I have. But yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. I'll watch some other people play it. Actually, there's somebody playing it on my Twitch stream earlier, and I almost jumped over there just to see what they were doing. But all right, my other one coming out that I'm super excited about on the 27th, because it's going to land right before my 2 long weekends and close to my birthday. So this is exciting. The Star Wars Outlaws, it will be coming out on August 27th. This is the game that is set in the Star Wars universe between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. You play as Kay Vess, a young scoundrel who will assemble a team for a massive heist in order to pay off a crime syndicate. A bunch of stuff that I'm super excited about this. One, so far, a lot of the gameplay looks a lot of fun. I am excited to have a game that will hopefully lean less on force powers and more kind of be like the Andor of Star Wars games, where it's more about human power and playing that scoundrel side and almost getting like the part of Han Solo that you really wanted to have, and seeing his background as a scoundrel and all that. And so, like, what does this world look like? And so I think it's going to be hopefully a really fun ride into a part of Star Wars you don't really get to see all that often.
Yes.
So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for it. It will probably end up being one that I watch the story for and write a nerdy sermon about just because it's Star Wars and I typically have to. But if I'm really enjoying the story, maybe I'll pick it up and play it for myself. That's what I typically try to do with those kind of games. But I have been anticipating it for quite a while now. It's definitely been one that's been on the cusp, and now it's finally here. Look forward to hearing how people do end up feeling about it. Another indie game, sort of, I guess, if you consider Quantic Dream to be an indie developer, which I do. Dustborn has released today as well. Mayfly actually mentioned it last week in her upcoming games. I'm similarly excited, and now it is officially out. A ragtag crew, check. Musical gear, check. Tour bus and robot driver, check. Stolen package, check. Embark on a perilous road trip across the divided states of America. Use the power of words to shape relationships with your crew, get out of trouble, and reach your final destination. Like I said, it's Quantic Dream, and so I'm gonna play it because I just love that development company. I love the way that they do things. I love the way that they tell stories, and this one in particular does remind me of a lot of other games that I've played and have particularly enjoyed. So I will probably follow this one a little bit and see how people are enjoying the story, and if they are enjoying it, then I will be picking this one up for sure.
Nice. Yeah. My last kind of 2 is a combo because what we already talked about, and so kind of throwing in another one. But 2 games have expansions coming out this week and next week. So if you are a fan of MMORPGs, but we already mentioned World of Warcraft and The War Within will be coming out. But Guild Wars 2, man, another MMORPG that has like hung on. And the amount of people that are still playing that, it blows my mind. But which is good because I feel like Guild Wars 2 is a very good game. I think what they've done with it has been fantastic. But Janther Wild, so giving you a new area to explore and some characters. So fans of those games, you got more to play and more to look forward to. And I've played both. I enjoy both, and we'll see. We'll see if I end up jumping into both, but they're both like on the cusp of being enough to drag me back. So we'll see if I pick one and play it for a little bit and then jump in and play the other and go that route.
Very good. Very exciting stuff there. Lots to look forward to. Do let us know what you're looking forward to as well. Sugar did let us know there. Looking forward to our club picks over in Discord. Our anime book club and video game club are all picking their games in the next couple days. The Cat returns for Ghibli Fest. Tales from Toyotoki, show by Rockstars, is launching with English dub on all 12 episodes tomorrow, and has some Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Championship live streams this weekend that she is looking forward to.
Good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. With that, let's get into our final segment of the show. It is time for our meme of the week. If you would like to be considered for meme of the week, just use our Memes and Goose channel over on our Discord. Exclamation with Discord in anytime in the chat. I should pull that up. This week it is from our one and only Perspective, who did share this wonderful cooking spinach meme in which there is just a mountain of spinach until you coat it in oil and cook it up, at which point there are maybe 5 or 6 leaves. And then some folks reposted it and said, "This is the meme content I like to see." And the other person said, "Let me tell you something. Chefs love memes about how a kitchen works. And this one caused my entire kitchen to riot, and my head chef sent it to all the area chefs in the company." So a meme within a meme. You get 2 there, as well as the not just the spinach that is hashtag relatable, but also we learned that chefs love memes, which I feel like in my headcanon of chefs, that adds up.
Yeah. Good.
So Good stuff there. Chats in the cloud for Perry, claiming the meme of the week this week. As I said, if you would like to be considered for meme of the week, use that Memes and Goofs channel, and that is the best way to do it, folks. With that, we're going to wrap this extra long, extra large show that has been great with some Gamescom conversation. But as we come to the close, Sneaky, shout out. What would you like to share with anybody? Where can they find you? Any of that sort of stuff.
Checkpoint Discord. It's where I spend the majority of my time. I have various names under social media, but I don't really post anything anymore on social media. So if you want to get a hold of me and you want to have some good time, join our Discord. I always say this, and not because Nate pays me to, but because I actually mean it. It is by far my favorite place to be. It is. I have our Discord open on my computer all day at work, and any chance I can hop in, and I don't get to post a whole lot just because things have been so chaotic lately, but I love seeing everybody else's posts. And, there's some that make me laugh. There's some that make me think, and I absolutely love it. So please, please join our Discord. You will not be disappointed.
Absolutely ditto on all of that. Folks, this has been Twig, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered live on twitch.tv/Checkpoint Church each and every week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerdy news. If you watched this far, you probably enjoyed this one. So remember to give us a 5-star on your favorite podcast app, click that like button, and recommend the show to your favorite nerds. We appreciate everyone that watches the show, shares the show, supports it any way that they can, but we do want to give an extra special shout out to our subscribers over on Twitch who do give their hard-earned dollars to help support this ministry and the thing that we got going on here. So thank you to Nerd Pastor Nate, Sneaky Pig 633, DJ Courageous, Mindful Marlena, Perspective, HMA 1009, The Phoenix 2192, Coyote 42, Twilight 27, Sugar Haiku, Tini Christina P, Gobi Church, Wisen Lemur, DGC 12 1996, JM Leon 42, Deacon Shannon LS, Shakeem 4752, Trombone Dalek, Xando Calrissian, Buish, Jate Live, 8030 Bats, Lee Animal Art. Thank you, folks. We appreciate everybody that watches, and we appreciate our subscribers that help support things and keeping them going. Is there going to be Twig next week? Yes, there should be Twig next week, and we're looking forward to it. With that, we're going to end the show, as we always do, with our 3 things that we believe to be true about every single one of you out there. See, we are really a church, and I am really a pastor, and we really do believe these 3 things. Whether you are a believer, whether you believe in God, whether you go to church, whether you love God, whether you love church, whether you hate God, hate church, none of those things change these 3 things that we believe to be true about you. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. It's why we do these deep dives into Gamescom and opening night live and put on this show just for you. And number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world is a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, we are going to hop away and into our beds to go to sleep. Maybe Sneaky will go eat dinner, being in a bit of a different time zone. I don't know if you've eaten yet or not.
I ate before the show, but now I get to go do more homework. That's
more homework. Enjoy that homework. Those in the chat, I hope you don't have any homework to do. If you eat, I hope the food is good. If you go to sleep, I hope you rest well. And join us tomorrow in the Discord or any of our wonderful places. Until next time, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.